That's not imposter syndrome. That's just you being a human trying something new, is what she said to me when I shared with her how I would feel if I was supposed to make jokes and those jokes were not coming out of me. And she, who I'm talking about, is Lynn Harris, the founder of Gold Comedy. Lynn Harris, welcome to the She Became CEO podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You are the founder of Gold Comedy, the comedy school, and you wrote that it's a professional network and content studio. So we'll probably talk about humor at some point.
We
But on
might.
your
We
website,
might.
yeah,
Could happen.
yeah, but I looked up the comedy school, and on your website, I also saw that you offer a class called "Develop and Build Your Pitch," which which is I thought it would be probably suitable for entrepreneurs. And I create also content for entrepreneurs and people who want to be entrepreneurs. So I'm definitely interested to hear more about that. But let me ask you to begin with, let me ask you this. Who was Lynn Harris before she founded Gold Comedy?
The same person, only younger. Being an entrepreneur can age you, you know. I really spent my life doing roles and jobs that may sound different on paper, but kind of all lead to the same place or have a lot in common that is just under the surface and right there once you point it out. And that is, I've always been driven by the power or sort of the I've always sort of situated myself at the intersection of pop culture, especially comedy, and social change. And I was a journalist for many years, and I count, writing for magazines as I did. I wrote for newspapers as well. I wrote for all sorts of publications, but I certainly count magazines as pop culture. I created all sorts of pop culture products, especially I co-created a superhero named Breakup Girl that was really the first multi-platform internet based success story in the late 90s. It was acquired by Oxygen. We had a whole multimedia cult following. And I did comedy for a long time. I designed and produced, either mostly with other people, co-designed, co-produced a lot of advocacy related campaigns that were fueled by humor, but with seriousness of purpose. Campaigns designed, for example, to challenge gender-based violence, but using tools like animation that make unfunny issues accessible and relatable and actionable. And all along, I have cared very much about comedy, not just because I love it, but because it's truly a cultural force. So it matters to me. It matters, not just to me, it matters who makes it,
Mhm.
because it helps define, as with many other elements of pop culture, it helps define our beliefs, our perceptions, our thoughts about who has power, our thoughts about who we should listen to, the way we relate to certain issues. So it really matters who makes comedy. And that's what all sort of came together and inspired me to found Gold Comedy, which, as you said, is a comedy school and a professional network and a content studio where we help women and non-binary creators and others, as we like to say, succeed in their comedy careers for all the reasons that I just described. Because first, it matters because women are people and comedy is a job. But then again, it also matters who makes comedy. So even though comedy is hard for everyone, we want to make it as easy as possible for the folks for whom it's still too hard, because again, we want to help them as individuals, but then we also want a world where it's easier for everyone to be able to be a comedy creator.
Wow, I love that story. So I heard journalism. Of
Yeah.
course, that explains social change, interest in social change, probably.
Mhm.
But you could have taken steps into so many directions from where you
Mhm.
were at. And it's really, I would be interested in exploring more why you chose comedy specifically. Did you like making jokes as a child?
Yeah, I was just always drawn to comedy, the way someone is drawn to anything that they like. You know, someone's drawn to, I don't know, horseback riding, someone's drawn to cooking, someone's drawn to politics. It always drew me, but never only as, and my parents didn't discourage me. We always had, the popular shows of the time on in the house. We had Carol Burnett and I Love Lucy and the Muppets, and it was sort of the just in the water when I was growing up, and uh, so my approach to social change isn't the only one or the right one. It's just the one that I like. So
Mm.
other people, as I just said, other people may go into politics, or they may go into advocacy, or they may go into grassroots organizing, or whatever it is. But this is the path I chose because it's the one I like, and I do feel strongly that it's powerful.
Okay. And previously you said that humor is hard. I think that's how you put it.
Comedy
And
is hard. Get the comedy
comedy,
business. Yeah, yeah,
comedy is hard. It's definitely hard, but you also mentioned some names and names of shows, names of people. And it's hard for me because I am an immigrant to this country.
right.
And often people laugh at things and I don't understand
Yeah,
what
for sure.
they
Yeah,
laugh at.
yeah,
So it might be the case here where I don't understand what you're saying. I might ask you what
sure,
exactly you mean about
sure,
that.
of course, of course.
But before I turned on the record button, you also shared that you like to talk to the audience, which is women in midlife. So, do you mind sharing how old you were when you started Gold Comedy?
I started thinking about it, just kind of thinking, about 10 years ago, honestly. So I was 25. No, so I was in my mid 40s when
Mm.
I started thinking about it. And so now I'm in my mid 50s. And the iteration that I landed on, that's what you see now. I landed on in like 2021.
You could choose to not answer that question.
Oh,
But
I don't
why
care.
I was asking is because I am now rebuilding a business. I have had several businesses in my life, but I am 56
Mhm.
and I am rebuilding my business or building, you can say, because it's going to be completely different from what it was. And I want to encourage people to start if they feel inclined to start something at any
Totally.
age.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're the same age. So totally. I would say the same thing. I would say the same
Oh,
thing.
okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. And you just tell me if you want to cut this part out, and I
Oh, I
will.
don't care. No,
Okay.
I want to live in a world where women don't have to fib about their age. I think
Yeah,
that's something we do for other
definitely.
people, and it's silly. Yeah.
So can I say that your main target audience is women, and you also mentioned non-binary folks?
Yeah,
Folk.
our target, our, I mean, this the fastest way to say it is our target audience is women, but it's not accurate in the sense that we first of all we welcome everyone. For first of all, legally we have to. Second of all, I the way and this is welcome. The way that people live and in the world of gender now has completely changed. So I don't. It's not up to me to decide how people identify and whether they deserve or whether they pass a test to be part of gold. People use all sorts of pronouns. People use all sorts of identities. Like it's I'm not gonna judge. The only thing we do judge, the only thing we really care about, or the main I should say the main thing that we care about is no bro vibes. So because anyone, that's the problem. The For many of our members, what they're escaping or avoiding, or just trying to get around, is the persistent problem in comedy. Although has changed, tons is so much better, but there is a persistent like dude vibe, that is different from that is not doesn't mean every dude brings that to the room, but it's a vibe that is persistent and that can either at best be unwelcoming and at worst be like actually exclude people. um, actually exclude women and non-dudes. So we create a space where that is not happening. So that you, even though you kind of have to deal with those spaces at some point as you build your comedy career or even a creative side hustle, we at least give you a bro vibe free space to learn, network, meet collaborators, that kind of thing. So at least with us, you don't have to worry about that. So we, if we sort of, if we have any sort of admission criteria that has to do with gender, that's the one that we really enforce. And frankly, we haven't really needed to because people self-select. The people who come to us are, bring the supportive, collaborative vibe that we have established, and that's why they're here, and so they augment it.
Yeah, it sounds like you are communicating to people who have experienced, I would say, trauma due to patriarchy. Is
Could
that
be, sure, sure. And who hasn't really?
yes. So one of my topics also is trauma, and it sounds like you
Yeah.
have created a safe space for those people. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that a person must have healed from trauma to be able to create comedy and
That's a
joke about
great
stuff?
question. That's a great question. And we do create opportunities for people. We for sure create opportunities for people to create comedy around traumatic events. Whether it's a personal traumatic event or, I was doing stand up during the time of September 11th. So, and we created comedy around um, or well, we had to figure out how to create comedy around that was appropriate, that actually had the right target. Um, uh, and typically, and just to sort of set up what I just, or to complete the thought that I just set up, with difficult topics, whether they're personal or social, the comedy secret there, and it's not a secret, is that where the humor opportunities are is not in the bad thing that happened in the world or to you. The comic opportunities are in the ripples, like the ripples around it, how you reacted, what choices you made because of the thing, what choices other people made because of the thing that happened. So people don't necessarily, I mean, I'm not sure there's one particular definition, and you can tell me, better than I do, of like, okay, I'm officially healed. But what we say is you need to be ready. And
Mhm.
you can't, this is going to sound snarky, but you cannot be journaling on stage. If you're going
Yeah.
to address if you're going to address a difficult topic, you have to have some sort of readiness to talk about it in a way that tells the audience either, and you can say this explicitly, or you can just show them that you're okay and it's okay to laugh.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready to do that, then that's fine. But you need more time or whatever it is you need before you can really just be able to do just to make people laugh about whatever this thing is.
I love how you said it. So you also help people to self-select whether or not they're ready for what you offer. But what if,
Right. Well, that would be for a particular class or a particular bit. I mean, it wouldn't be that they're not ready to join Gold. It would just be like, okay, are you really ready to do that bit? Maybe not. Are you really ready to write that scene in your TV pilot? Maybe not. Whatever it is. But it wouldn't be about joining. It would just be about a choice about some material and whether or not they're going to create that material or share that material right now.
okay, this leads me to a question. Can you define humor? Or do
No.
you, or or humor, I don't know, humor or comedy in your school?
Well, yes. In that case, I define it broadly. So I can define it by the forms that it takes. And there's certainly overlap in some cases, or at least in the skills required to create the different kinds of comedy. But simply put, we teach and we engage with stand up, sketch, improv, TV writing, TV sort of, sitcom or dramedy writing, late night writing, and also production, like digital sketches. How do you, if you're going to shoot something funny, um, what do you need to know about being a director for that, being an editor, doing lights and sound, like the actual, like the production stuff, that may not have you in front of the camera, but has you doing, equally being a creator. It may not have you being a performer, but you might be still be a creator, and part of a team that creates something funny. We teach you how to create web series. We teach you how to build and pitch ideas, and in that case, we have had entrepreneurs take that class 100%. But typically, what people are pitching is a product that they want to create. So, an entertainment product. So, uh, and the idea, the target of the pitch would be, for example, a development executive. And so that class is designed for people who have this idea that they don't know that they know is good, and they're kind of in love with it, and maybe they've been like thinking about it for years, but they don't know, uh, whether it's that they haven't inhabited the entertainment world enough to know like what to do or who to call, or whether they just don't know they just think it's a great idea, but they don't know how to develop it as an idea. Maybe they have a great idea, but they don't know if it's a TV show or a film or a web series, and this class helps you figure that out. And so it's not, and the product of the class is you come out with an industry standard polished practice pitch and a deck and all that stuff you need, but you don't even really start doing that in the class until like the seventh meeting of 12 classes, because so much depends on developing the idea and like understanding your idea so clearly and all its elements and aspects, that then you're able to kind of to like break it down into, or break it back down into a way that you communicate it to others in a format like a pitch deck. So yeah, so that, so back to your question. So I'm in including that class, I'm defining comedy as really anything that someone wants to, actually, even you can take that class even if your idea isn't funny. So that one's kind of an outlier. But these days comedy even includes, 4 to 5 consumers want their brands to be funny. So someone's got to write that copy. Someone's got to work at agencies or brands themselves, creating brand identities or brand communications that are funny. So I would include, even figuring out how to write funny copy for brands, as part of the, comedy writ large.
Okay, so when you said this class, you were talking about the class that the pitching, the
Correct.
teachers
Yes. Yeah.
pitching. But for people who are listening, who I create all kinds of content, and they do not come to this space ready to listen about humor and specifically and how to dissect it. Let's zoom in a little bit. Why would this be maybe worth exploring more? You mentioned several types of techniques, so to say, or what you teach. Can you briefly describe each of them and what skills they would learn, what even
Sure.
those words mean?
Sure. I mean, I could even, to pull it all together, and then I can break it down.
Yeah.
Comedy overall, I mean, if you want to get really kind of philosophical and analytical, it's this is not like one definition, but some of the attributes, include surprise. So, in other words, the most common kind of underlying construct of any laugh, really, and there are lots of exceptions, but a fundamental construct is setup and punch, right? And typically what happens between the setup and the punch is, during the setup, whether it's stand up where one person is telling a joke, or whether it's something that's surprising that happens in a sketch, it typically the you're guided. Let's take the example of stand up. The stand up will guide you in a certain direction, and you think they're talking about one thing, and then boom, from the punchline you realize they're talking about something else. The most famous one is Henny Youngman. I don't know if it's most famous, but a very economical and sexist joke that is a great example is from Henny Youngman decades ago, who said, "Take my wife, please." And, if I can, deconstruct that, he meant when he says take my wife, you think he means, colloquially, you think he means like, for example,
For
my wife, or let's
example,
talk about my wife, or whatever. And then he says, please. So
yeah.
it's 4 words, it's 3 words of setup, 1 word of punch. And that's the twist, that's the element of surprise. So really that's going to be kind of at play in a lot of different kinds of comedy, whether it's explicit or not. So it's again not the only thing, but it's very fundamental to stand up, which is when you have one person, typically one person on stage for 5 minutes, 8 minutes, could be half an hour, usually talking about themselves, or if they're not talking about themselves, they're talking about a topic, but in a way that is unique to their point of view.
Hmm.
Um, Sketch would be a scene that escalates. Almost like with rare exceptions, they set up an idea. They'll set up a fundamental idea that typically has a theme, whether it's like could be a parody of an ad, it could be a fish out of water, someone in the wrong place, and whatever is happening, typically it has 3 beats and it escalates to the point of absurdity, and or yeah, it just escalates to an extreme point. And there's many different types of sketches, but typically they'll have a beat structure, where they escalate and then kind of get to and then deliver kind of the what's the word I'm looking for, like the inevitable conclusion to whatever the pattern is that you have set up. And then let's see, improv is, in a way, not people think of it as the opposite of stand up, because you're coming in with nothing written, whereas stand ups prepare and prepare and prepare and prepare, even though they may speak casually, they're prepared. Whereas improv, it's the opposite. You listen to others and go with, you build scenes based on building on each other's ideas. And it seems, it's on the one hand, in the moment it's very spontaneous, but people who are good at it are exceedingly well trained to
Hmm.
understand how to shape a scene in a way that doesn't dominate, but still gives that doesn't you don't dominate over your team members, but you still work together to give a scene shape. And it could even have the shape of a sketch, but it's made up in the moment. So those are 3 big examples. And I really think that skills transfer among them. And I also think that, and I'm not the only one, that comedy skills are life skills. So no matter where I mean, this is true. This is science. I mean, there's thousands of studies that document various aspects of this. But the short conversational way to say it is, that comedy helps you think faster, uh, think faster, write sharper, read a room, all those things. And it even helps you be quiet better. It even helps you know when not to talk and when to listen to others and wait, and kind of wait for the right moment. And tons of other things. It builds trust. It builds connection. CEOs want to hire people with senses of humor. It builds just, it's like one of these kind of crazy magical, what's the cure, not cure alls, but it has so many. It's one of those things, like a product that has so many applications, like witch hazel. You have it in your cabinet, it does so many things. It's comedy's a little bit like that.
Oh, definitely. And what I just heard is, because I'm interested in brain health. I study brain health. I have studied brain health forever. And I was going to ask you how you help people to get out of their left brain and
Hmm.
get into that relaxed state where they can joke. But now I just heard that there's a lot of actually left brain work to figure out things. So it's more about fluidity. It's definitely good for healthy aging to
Oh, for
train your
sure.
brain.
For
Yeah.
sure. And I mean, I think it's good for both brains,
Yeah.
because stand up, for all the prep that you do, requires listening and spontaneity. And improv, for all the spontaneity, also requires a lot of practice and muscle building.
Hmm.
So they're not necessarily, just to pick those two, they're not necessarily polar opposites. They use both parts of your brain. It's good for your whole brain, honestly.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I wonder if we scared some people off. And
Well,
yeah,
I mean, here's one of the things I like to say. It to succeed in a professional at a semi or professional or semi-professional level of comedy, you have to work really hard. To get the benefits of comedy, you don't have to work as hard. And most important, you don't have to change anything about who you are. And that's where I don't want to scare people. Meaning, a lot of people think, oh, I would do kind. I thought maybe I could do comedy, but I'm shy or I'm not. I just whatever it is. And the response to that is that you do not have to change who you are or be a different person or have different attributes in order to dive into comedy. You just don't. Uh, for every comic who's like, if you perceive that comics are like loud and confident, for every loud, confident comic or loud, confident seeming comic, I will show you a shy, quiet one who, and not just that they like change when they get on stage, they don't change when they get on stage. I mean, I'm thinking of Aparna Nancherla, who's one of my favorite comics, who's super shy and anxious. And that's exactly who she is on stage.
hmm
And that's why she's funny, not because because she's so genuine and so authentic and she's just who she is, but kind of like multiplied by 1.2 on stage. It's her persona now, but that persona is completely natural and authentic to her. And if Aparna had decided when she started doing comedy that in order to do comedy she would have to not be anxious and not be shy, she wouldn't be funny.
yeah,
So you can just start from exactly where you are and stay the same, and just and we're not the only ones, would help you find what is your authentic, what is the voice that is natural for you, what's the vibe that's natural for you. And so that's why, and then we and other places like us, not all the places, create places where it's safe to experiment, where the stakes are low, where you can just like be yourself and figure it out. And that's so important for anyone who's starting, no matter what your goals are. It's so important for you to know that like the stakes are low and you're already ready.
I love that so much. So, what is a typical composition, if I can say so, of your groups? Are how, like, what percentage of them are people who really want to become comedians, and then people who just want to learn something new, let's say?
I would say the thing that everyone for sure has in common is seriousness of purpose. It's the purpose that may vary. So, and that's why we often talk about helping people build comedy careers and creative side hustles. So, we have, I couldn't tell you the exact numbers. I could, but I can't
Yeah,
right
of course.
now. But of people who are like, I'm here because I am going to be the next big stand up. That we have that. We have people who are like, I'm here because I'm going to be the next big, TV, TV dramedy writer. Or I'm here because I produce sketches and I'm amazing at it. And, that's what I want to do. And then we have other people who are like, and especially women in midlife, honestly, who are perhaps uh, co- have reached a point in their career where they're not where they're comfortable they don't have to like grind every day to keep their job or get ahead, and so they have a little extra time and energy, and they have this thing that they've been wanting to. There's not that many people who are just like, I'm just here for fun. Like everyone has a seriousness of purpose, but even the ones who are not quitting their day jobs are very serious and dedicated at not just goofing around. So another example might be the women who take the pitching class that we've been talking about, who again, not quitting their day job. We have, people who take that class. We have someone who's a medical doctor. We have someone who's a veterinary oncology surgeon. We have people who are just a professional chef. All these things, they're not budging, but they're bringing their years of wisdom and the sort of extra energy and creativity they have at this point in their life and a little extra time into creating building a pitch for a TV show, let's say, doesn't have to be, that they really believe in and want to make and want to sell, and that they really could, while also not not running off to join the circus, not quitting their day job, literally. So I want to count people like that
Okay.
as people who are very serious about building what they're building, but you might not call their title comedian.
Uh-huh. So, which class would be the best for those people who don't want to become comedians, or any class?
Well, if you're curious, okay, so two different answers. One
Uh-huh.
is if you're just curious about like, okay, what can comedy do for me?
Mhm.
Let me see what this is like. That would we always recommend actually for anybody, we recommend starting with our stand-up boot camp class. Because that is the class that we developed first, and it kind of has all the tools that you can carry. Then you get sort of a toolbox that you can carry into all the other classes, even if the particular form is different. Um, and just the writing mechanics, the basic stuff is so important. We also but then there's also people who, and it's very accessible for newcomers, and it's appropriate for you if you have done stand up before, because you'll get new tools, you'll make new friends, you'll get accountability and structure even if you have experience. um, there's also plenty of classes, as I've mentioned, that and plenty of experiences that don't require you to perform. So if you're really, I mean, there are plenty of, I mean, I'm like, everyone can do it, but like, if you really don't want to perform, you don't have to. Like, you can learn how to do late night writing. You can learn how to do, I mean, we always need gearheads, right? You can learn how to do lights and sound. You can learn how to be a director of photography. You can learn how to use tools that for video editing that are specific to comedy. You do not have to put your face anywhere if that's not your jam. If you just want to be near comedy because you love comedy and you want to understand and be part of how it's created, you do not have to be a performer. And I'm not trying to dissuade you from performing. I'm just telling you the reality is, do you know how many people are involved in making comedy who are not, whose faces you never see? So many, probably more than the faces that you do see, so these are very real opportunities for people who just love comedy and want to be near it in some way. Um so uh so if that's you, you can start. You don't I still recommend you take stand-up boot camp, but like, it doesn't really matter. There's so many other things you can do to dip your toe.
So that's a separate class for people who want to just be supporters in some way, or it's just an invitation to them to contact you.
uh I'm not sure. Well, I mean, all our classes are separate classes. They're all like classes with homework and like participation and stuff that you need to create and practice in order to um, attain or improve a skill. But we also do have the mostly the way we work is with a subscription. So actually, you with exceptions, you don't pay class by class. You pay to join for year by year.
Oh,
So once you join, you have access to all of the classes that we offer inside what we call the club. And that way you have the freedom to try things out. A lot of people take classes more than once, for the accountability and structure. So that kind of makes everything very accessible and enables you to kind of build your own path.
oh, thank you for explaining. Because when I looked at your website, I saw that there's the same price for all classes, and I was
Right.
going to ask
That's why.
about it. Oh,
That's
that's
why.
why. That's because
Because
it's a,
it's really, you're paying for there's exceptions. Our premium classes, like the pitch class that we were talking about, is works differently, but it just has a different entry point. You pay for the class, and then as part of your tuition for the class, you have access to the community and everything that it includes. But the other way around, is what you saw, where everything was the same price. What it really means is you're starting your annual subscription, but you're starting it on a particular date with a particular class because that's the thing that drew you at that moment.
oh, that is so good to know. And I already thought that the price was really good. But if you're saying that people can join any class and see what fits best for them, that's even better.
Yeah, and then you can take
Yeah,
all the
feel
classes you want
free
for
if
a
you,
whole year.
yeah, feel free to say if you want to say what the price is.
Oh yeah, it's a great value. It's $500 a year.
Yeah.
So that's about what you would pay for like one and a half classes somewhere else. So, and you get as many classes as you can possibly take. You get, we have special curriculum for sketch. We have weekly Q&As with celebrities and pros. We have two open mics every week. We have monthly shows. And then we have the community that's there the whole time. So if you need an introduction, if you have a question, if you want some feedback, we're always like, we're there 24/7 for that.
So if somebody is in that boot camp, that probably starts at some point and then ends at some point,
Yeah.
as the word boot camp suggests.
Yeah,
How?
most of our classes are like 4 weeks or 6 weeks.
Okay.
They're pretty bite sized. So then you finish that, then you're like, what am I doing next? On to the next thing.
And how many actually meetings during that 6 week period, and how much time people would need for doing their homework?
It depends. They usually meet for an hour and a half each time, and or 2 hours. Actually, some are 2 hours between an hour and 2 hours per week, and then you could probably get your homework done in an hour. But we also recommend that you come and practice at our open mic. We also recommend that just do other stuff. So, but it's not it. I would say the pitching class, the homework will take you. It's more intensive,
Mhm.
but it's designed to be that way. It was originally it's a college level class. It was designed originally and taught at a college, so it's more intensive. Like you'll definitely spend more time on your homework
And
for
I
that.
just heard that there's an open mic. That is great.
Mhm.
Do you provide also feedback for people who
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah, our one of the things that's unique about our open mics, we have two public open mics a month and two that are members only. Um, but yes, actually, starting in January, we're having two public ones a month, and so anybody, you don't have to be a member, and we provide just nice, what's the word, constructive
Mhm.
feedback. Oh, I love your opener. It sounds great. I love your closer. I wonder if you could even do this with it. That kind of thing.
Love
And
that.
it's all very like friendly and supportive.
Yeah, that helps to grow and improve.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, shall we joke a little bit?
No, I don't. I'm off duty. No, I'm kidding.
Who is your favorite comedian? Currently, I love watching. Have you heard Ismo?
Oh, I don't think so. But wait, it's ringing a bell. No, tell me more.
He's a Finnish.
Oh,
He's
no, I
from
don't know him.
Finland. He's a Finnish comedian, and of course, why I like it is because he's joking about English, about the English language, and his frustrations about the English
I'll
language.
take it. Yeah, I'm sure it's all very well deserved.
Yeah, it's about the culture as well. One of the simplest ones, but really funny because it resonated with me. He was talking about that it took a year for him to figure out how to respond to "What's up?"
Oh,
He said,
yeah,
and after a year, I realized that you respond "What's up?" And he said, and I felt like I'm not answering the question,
right,
but
right.
they seemed happy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but there are more extreme ones in his repertoire.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Can you maybe share a joke that you remember from somebody that you heard from somebody else?
Well, I think the best thing I can do is make some recommendations about comics, comics that I love that people should listen to. Because I can't deliver their jokes the way they can, but I recommend currently, but probably always, Maria Bamford, who has done stuff with us. I recommend Cameron Esposito, who I would love for her to do stuff with us. If you're out there, Cameron, I recommend. There's a there's a show called it's a hospital sitcom called St. Dennis. St. Dennis. I think it's just called St. Dennis. It's a hospital. It's an office comedy set in a hospital, and the supervising producer is a comic named Naomi Ekperigin, and she also, if you Google her, she used to, I'm sure she still does, do a lot of late night. She'd be the comic on, Colbert or Seth Meyers. She's fantastic. And so those are three of my favorites. I also love, there's a drag queen named Bob the Drag Queen who also does stand up. and he is fantastic at stand up. So, Bob the Drag Queen, Maria Bamford, Cameron Esposito, Naomi Ekperigin, four big favorites right now.
And you name them for a reason. Something speaks to you, something resonates with you specifically. Can you pinpoint what that is?
They're all really different, but each one is just very each one is very original. There's nothing, I mean, I guess Maria Bamford is the one who's more like out there. She, and by the way, pursuant to our to earlier in our conversation, she, it's not really trauma, but just strictly speaking, but she talks about um, mental health, mental illness, various diagnoses that she's struggled with, and she talks about them in a way that is not at all earnest, and she's kind of wacky. And you know that when she's talking, when she's doing stand up, even though she's extremely accomplished and has been doing this for years, you know that what you see is what you get. Like, she on stage is the real Maria, but like she's messy and weird and kind of like kooky. You know, she's kooky, and you know that that's really who she is. It's she's a delight. So yeah, they're all. I mean, I would say the others are more just, they do what you would call by the book typical stand up, but each of them has such a clear persona, point of view, character. Each is a superb writer. Um, and I just find that they all of them are able to take familiar topics and make them original and interesting. I don't know. I just, there's something about each of them that I find um, there are lots of comics who are good writers and who are original, and I find that these take that to the just to the next level. Cameron Esposito also is a huge feminist and has done a lot of very tricky comedy about tricky issues that is very funny. For example, about the culture that permits sexual assault. Um, and you see what I said there was that she doesn't joke about sexual assault, which
Mhm.
is no. But the way you can joke about that topic is you don't joke about the thing, you joke about the thing around the thing. And in this case, it's the culture that enables it to persist. And that is very much a fair target. That is punching up, which is always permitted. So when she's making fun of something that is more powerful than her, which is, the culture that enables sexual assault, then that's fair game. And she's very clever about the way she skewers it. And so I find her to be very brilliant.
I like how you explained this, but I also understand that you explained this and appreciate those specific artists because of your background, your understanding of what a good comedy is. Like, I have studied art, I could maybe appreciate art, and to like differently than a person who just looks at a painting. And
Yeah.
so you too. So it's really interesting to hear how you explain because it tells me what a person will learn in one of those classes
Yeah.
that you're offering.
Yeah. The specificity of their point of view, the specificity of how they write, all that stuff is stuff that it took them years to develop, but it's what you learn. It's what you need to learn for sure.
Yeah. I have given humorous speeches, but I don't think that I have a talent. I actually won a prize, I think.
Oh, there you
I
go.
have, yeah, but I don't know where it came from. I definitely worked on it. It took a while, but yeah, it was about my frustrations, of course. And I think that humor is always about some frustrations
Of
or
course. Yeah. And
stuff like
also,
that. Yeah.
you probably, I mean, you of course know and remember better than I do, but probably it's also important to the degree that you can to know your audience. So like you would know whether it's an actual inside joke or not, what your crowd will find funny, and that that might not be funny to anyone outside of your line of work, or this particular conference, whatever it is. So that's also very key.
Yeah, and that ties up to what I started with by saying that I don't understand some of the humor.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Yeah, but with Ismo, I think everybody understands when he talks about the language.
Right, because we're all frustrated with English. English is very poorly designed, even those of us who were lucky enough to not have had to learn it later.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Lynn, I really, really enjoyed this interview and I
Was.
gained a lot of knowledge, and I am very interested in what you offer personally. If I had the time, I might even jump in.
Thank you. Oh, you
But
can always make the time when you're ready. No rush.
I will ask you this. I feel like I would have imposter syndrome. I would feel that I those jokes are not coming out of me when I need them to come out of me during those sessions or whatever.
You never know. You never know.
Have you seen that happen a lot?
Um, I think, I tend to think of imposter syndrome as being uh actually a reaction to being in a place that wasn't designed for you.
Hmm.
And so it's not your fault. Like, like this is so weird. I'm a woman in a boardroom full of men, and yet I feel out of place. What could it be? I must have to build my confidence. No, that room wasn't built for you. They don't really want you there. Like it's not your fault. It's not your problem. So I would say, feeling that you're, feeling out of place in a comedy space would be because you were new, and uh, that the key is not to like get all of a sudden be great at comedy. The key is to take the time that is needed to understand what you find funny.
Hmm.
Because if you don't find your jokes funny, no one else will, and taking the time to, yeah, understand your own lens, your perception, what kinds of jokes you like, what cracks you up. That's what's going to make you feel like, okay, I have something to say. Um, and it doesn't matter, your skill level doesn't matter. It's the sort of satisfaction of having that insight and to be able to kind of start experimenting and practicing. And we on purpose have created a space, as I said, that if using gold as an example, we've created a space um, where that was the space we've created is created for you. This isn't an open mic full of 25-year-old white dudes who may be perfectly nice, but may also not be your people. So I everyone comes to us, especially if they're new, with some degree of questions and nerves, but that's normal.
Yeah.
That's not a syndrome. That's just being human, trying something new.
Yeah, I was asking also for my audience, as you probably
Yeah,
figured it out.
totally, totally. But like, yeah, we're. I can see why a space that you imagined, which you could imagine an open mic that's all 25-year-old white dudes, or you could have been to an open mic that's 25-year-old white dudes, and they're just not your people. And like, if you really if you commit to comedy, you're gonna have to be in places with people who aren't your people. It's fine. That's part of the job. But in terms of a place to kind of a low stakes, friendly place to start to learn, it's not only gold, but there are places like, gold and places like it are designed to make you to reflect yourself back to you and not
Okay.
demand that you be someone else or quickly be better at like show up great at comedy when you've never done comedy. That's not fair. We don't expect that. Nobody expects that. So we're designed to have the highest level of people like us. There are others are designed to have, the lowest stakes and the highest support
I
so that
love
you
that.
might stick with
Yeah.
it.
And 1 year is long enough time to dip your toe into the water and then start feeling comfortable, maybe even dive in.
Yeah, typically people stay more than 1 year. So for that reason, because they're like, okay, I see. Yes, I can do this. I see where I can grow. There's always a place for everyone to grow, including the people who are very experienced, of course.
Well, to wrap it up, what is your call to action and who is it for?
My call to action is, I mean, certainly for your particular listeners, is be open to all the gifts that comedy and humor can provide in your life. And again, you don't have to be different in order to embrace even more funny. You don't have to be louder. You don't even have to be funnier. You know, like you might be just fine the way you are, but you are just fine the way you are, but just to enjoy the opportunities to even just, they call it a sense of humor for a reason. Like it's just a sense. It's not a grasp. You don't have to have a mastery. You just have like enjoy a sense of humor is something that you can get you through get you through the night. And but then also if you ever decide to kind of lean into it for one reason or another, again, you don't have to wait till you're more confident or wait till you're less shy. It's available to you as an opportunity for, again, thinking faster, writing sharper, reading a room. And as we age, we care less about what people think about us, typically, not always, but sometimes. And so I would really just invite people to try to even if nothing else observe the ridiculousness around them, and like start writing stuff down. If something occurs to you, no one has to read your notebook. Start
Yeah.
writing stuff down, see what happens, see what you notice, and you might be inspired to write stuff for real for a class, because you can you can hone your sense of humor before you even do anything else. And it's just a sense. Again, there's nothing scary about a sense of humor.
Wonderful. And is there any question that you wished I had asked, but I didn't?
No, I think we nailed it.
Well, thank you so much. This was Lynn Harris. She's the creator of Gold Comedy School
Gold comedy.
and Gold Comedy, and I will put all the links in my show notes, but you can also spell them out right now.
Yeah, thank you. It's goldcomedy.com. And I'm happy to provide a 10% off code for your listeners. We can do that. And you can also follow us on Instagram at Gold Comedy as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.